This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's going on, Buff Nation? Welcome back to another video. You know it's juicy when we got other teams. It's the trolling starting to happen. We got game one in just a few weeks. It's right around the corner. North Dakota State, they're not trolling. They got a little bit of troll by Colorado. We're going to show that here in just a moment. Then a big-time addition to the defense. We're going to talk about that. And then the big conversation. Joel Klatt's talking about how they could be a surprise in the Big 12. We've talked about on our show how I feel they're going to be a legitimate threat in the Big 12. There's another guy talking about that over under 5.5 wins. It's something you want to stay away from if you're betting on that. And things aren't adding up to me. I even feel like Joel Klatt didn't give enough credit to Colorado. He eventually said, look, they have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, i.e. being in the Big 12. And I just don't see the hype behind Arizona and a few other schools, especially with the talent that Colorado is backing up this year. So we're going to talk all about that and break it down. And then, of course, we'll leave it up to the comment section below. Before we do any of that, though, roll it. Good to see you. Happy to have all you back. So this had me rolling on the floor. I saw the breaking, phenomenal graphic, by the way. Breaking, Coach Prime buys more real estate, now living rent-free in minds of millions. I loved it. This is a picture here. Apparently, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a green screen, but it looks like North Dakota State's watching well-off media, I believe, or one of the insiders at Colorado. Again, could it be a green screen? I don't know. Whatever it is, I love the troll. I love the attempt here. Whether it is real, not real, it's hilarious. I loved getting in this mindset again. It lets us know that college football is back. It is a great time again. North Dakota State, it's going to be a doozy game one. Even Coach Prime said, he goes, why are they setting us up for that on a Thursday night? But it's going to be a blast to watch. So love that we're getting into it again. Next week, this is the final week of fall camp. And then next week kind of starts your first initial real life, game preparation. You start getting into that rhythm, that weekly rhythm. And we basically have 2 weeks to prepare for North Dakota State, week and a half, essentially. But that's where we're at in terms of football. Next up, you've got the hire of the linebacker from Michigan and George Hilo, I believe it's how it's pronounced. This is a big-time addition here. A little later than I would have liked it to be, I think. I mean, obviously, you want them in there as soon as possible, but he's got a phenomenal background and brings a ton of experience to this team. And I think the linebacker play, I think we can all agree, could have used a little bit of touch last year. This defense finished, I think, 127th out of 132. I bring that number up to go when we speak to going over 5.5 in a little bit of, look, I mean, the defense was a huge component last year. Again, Kelly coming from Alabama. I had a whole video about that early on. Again, kind of maybe probably going a little bit over the top and being a defensive coordinator. Maybe wasn't just ready yet to be a defensive coordinator for Colorado. But you bring in this young man who led Michigan, obviously played on a national championship last year with Michigan, coached at Alabama during a championship run, coached at FSU during a championship run. This guy's been a part of a championship status teams almost everywhere he's went. Now he's also coached at Colorado State. We'll leave that part out. But he's coached at Georgia as well. So under Saban, under Kirby Smart, and then of course Jim Harbaugh, all champions essentially. So phenomenal, company to be a part of. And again, the linebacker core at Michigan is set to be a top 10 linebacker unit heading into this year. And you got to believe that Mike Hilo is a big component of that, now being brought in to Colorado to help amplify that defense, to help it, get it where it needs to be and level it out. Obviously, you bring in Sapp to handle that defensive line. We've been getting a lot of tapes and clips from him talking about how great and how excited he is to see how this defensive line is going to perform. Just a lot of experience is being brought in, and professional experience is being brought in to manage and handle this defense to provide the best unit on the football field. Again, when you ranked 127th out of 132, you got to look at that and got to believe, like, the best part about that is the only way we can go is up. And think about those games. 4 wins last year, right? Not that the bar is 6, but it's how do you get to 6? How do you get to bowl game? How do you get to the over 5.5? How do you win 2 more games? I don't know. Have a top 100 rated defense, right? 20 more positions, 20 more spots, and there's probably 2 games right there. You kind of level it out like that. It's okay. That's not hard to grasp under. And when you look at the talent, which we're going to get into in here in just a moment, you take a look at these PFF scores and you see where this defense starts to plug in some really talented players. You're like, look, that's not going to be hard to do just by the sheer talent that has been added from the transfer portal to this team alone. So I'm not saying 6 is the goal, but again, this is kind of where everyone's trying to just trying to gauge things. And I think this hire here will be a big addition to that linebacker room, which again had some of its struggles. So look, right now we're in the middle of just trying to find any which way we can. But I do want to talk about this. The reason I'm going to bring up these PFF scores because right now we're in the midst of a feeling emotion. What team can do what? What team can attack the Big 12? Which team is a legitimate threat to the Big 12? Joe Klatt had a great episode where he said, look, I think Utah is the favorite, is the kind of that upper echelon. Utah and Oklahoma State are the two teams to go after, but who's going to crack after that? Who's going to be shooting upwards? And he basically named the damn near entire conference for the Big 12. And look, I don't think he's wrong. The Big 12 is pretty wide open. But look, Utah, I would have to agree, is probably the most well-established. You've got a tenured coach there, 13 plus years or something like that, or 18 plus years as a head coach at Utah. There's not many schools like that out there. The guy has got his culture established at Utah. And when you've got all these schools around you kind of figuring things out, having somebody that's been there for a long time is a huge plus. Same thing with Gundy at Oklahoma State. You got two coaches at the top that have been a part of their organization for a very long time. Those things do go a long way. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at the Heisman Trophy odds, which this is a great segue into what we're going to get into next, right? Again, this show is brought to you today by BetUS. If you want to make it a deposit, use the link in the description. BetUS is running a phenomenal promotion right now. When you use that link below, for your first 3 deposits up to $2,000, you get 125% back of your deposit. And they're running fantastic lines. These lines right here with plus 3,000 odds for both of these young men to win the Heisman Trophy. So the reason I bring this up, the reason I show this graphic is there's two highly favored, maybe not highly favored, right? The plus 700 is more of that highly favored, but this isn't far off the cusp here. I could see this line moving farther, but have two guys in that hunt, plus 3,000 on one team. On one team, and we know what Shedeur can do. We know the impact that Travis makes on defense and offensively. Obviously dealt with injuries last year as well. He's an absolute dog. The reason why he has a D on his jerseys for a reason. So this is the first step into what I want to get to. But again, this show is brought to you by BetUS. Use that link in the description. But let's dive into the PFF scores, because I can spit at you all day long feelings and emotions and how I feel what this team's going to do and my belief. And you've got the haters that are always in the comments saying this is a joke. So I love college football. It's the reason why you play the games. There is emotions involved. There's logic, all of these things. First order of business. Here are the top quarterbacks returning. The only quarterback in the Big 12 that's ahead of Colorado is West Virginia Garrett Green. Okay? So when we start thinking about, okay, who are they going up against, right? You got Oregon State below there. Utah is not on here, which is Cam Rising. You got to believe he's going to be up there. He didn't play last year, so he doesn't have a PFF score. So he would be in this mix as well. And like I said, those, in my opinion, are the two schools with two legitimate threats. West Virginia is a sleepy, deep, dark night, simply due to the fact of how much of their team they're bringing back. I think they sit in the 75th percentile of production on the football field that they're bringing back. The most of college football, West Virginia is. So a lot of people have them kind of doing well this year, just given the seniority and the experience they're bringing back on their football team. So look, that is part of it. I think Colorado loses 2 to 3 games. That's my thought. Maybe a fourth one in there. But that's just kind of off the dome really quick. And again, these schools, Oregon State, I think Utah, those two teams are going to be very tough for Colorado, just given the sheer talent that those teams possess. Now, what I did here, this is the quarterback room. I went through a few position groups. So let's take a look at this next position group here, which is, let's see, this is LeJontay Western. This is wide receiver room. So Travis Hunter did not wind up on this list. I believe it had to do with probably snaps, not enough playing time, whatever it may be, does not land on this list. Will Shepherd, obviously, he was a bit lower down the list, but played at Vanderbilt last year. But ultimately, again, you're kind of looking at, okay, how does Colorado's talent match up against around the league? They do play Iowa State, which obviously Iowa State is a Big 12 team. They've got 2 top wide receivers in there. Great to see, but they don't have a top quarterback. That was up there. So right now, and again, we don't see Oklahoma State. We don't see Utah up here. So I'm kind of giving you just an idea of like, look, there's a lot of talent in Colorado. As if you start to kind of piece it together, has a lot of top talent in each group. Got a top quarterback. We can all agree with that. Multiple wide receivers. I think Will Shepherd is just a little bit underneath this list. Didn't make the cut. We know what Travis Hunter brings to the table, right? Jimmy Horn Jr. didn't make this list, but we know the talent that he brings. That wide receiver room is no question probably one of the top in the country. Again, this is just numbers, right? This is taking the emotions out of it. That's why I wanted to show you. So far, there's 2 position groups that look very solid. Let's go to the next position group here. This is the cornerback room. Again, Travis Hunter did not make this list, I think, given limited snaps. And also, I've got to be shocked. I'm surprised he wasn't higher on this list. A lot of reasons it could have been a factor of why he wasn't. Preston Hodge, obviously the new transfer. You can see this is the top 4 cornerbacks in the country. And you see where Colorado sits. So right now we've looked at quarterback, top 10 quarterback in the country, according to PFF. Okay. Top 4 cornerback. You got to believe that they've got the number 1 and 2 quarterback in the country if we're looking at it like this. Travis Hunter should be up there. Okay. Let's put it that way. So number 1 and 2 cornerback, and we know that cornerback room gets even deeper from those two, but let's just look at that. Wide receiver room, we can agree, top wide receiver, top two top wide receivers there with Travis Hunter. Now, the question is, again, who's going to block and who's going to stop him on defense? I get you. I'm here. I'm listening. Here's the edge. There's actually 2. I forgot to add the second screenshot. Maybe it's right here. Yes, so this is the better screenshot. This is the edge position. Again, BJ Green, Dayon Hayes. Dayon Hayes from Pittsburgh, I believe. 2 big additions. Again, you see 89 and 109. That's not out of edge rushers. That's in total. That's out of the entire college football. This is just, we're looking at, I just simplified it by edge group. So 2 top 100 players are at Colorado just on the edge position alone. All right. So now we've got 2 cornerbacks in the top, 2 edge rushers in the top. Let's go even further than that and look at the defensive line. And here we are, the defensive line in Jadozi Ngakwo. This is the interior defensive line. I don't even have Samson Okunlola from Pittsburgh on here. Okay. So you see where we're headed with this. Okay. Defensive line, 3 guys in the top 200 of PFF from last year, maybe 4 if we're thinking about it with Samson Okunlola. Cornerback, you got 2 to 3 in the top 200. Wide receiver, 2. Quarterback, all you need is 1. You've got 1. And I think I've got one more screenshot here, and I do, which is the offensive line. The offensive line, the biggest question, Justin Mays being up there in the top 18, as you can see. So keep that in mind, or top 20 for offensive line. So look, they've got key top-tier components in every position that you could be asking for, things that they definitely did not have last year, especially when it came to the trenches. They didn't have these guys in there. They surely did. Now, linebacker room, still a big question mark. I think bringing in that coach from Michigan is going to be huge. That is going to be a point of emphasis that I look out for in that North Dakota State game that I will be watching. But if you get pressure and you give Shedeur Sanders time, and you can put up points. Again, they put up points last year, but by the end of it, they were running out of gas. I mean, you got to think about how Shedeur Sanders by the end of the season was just running around. He was hurt. There's a game or 2 in there that they're able to win if he's got time, if he's not running for his life. It got to the point where they were losing a lot of structure on that offensive side of things, and then the defense was just getting obliterated. It gets ugly. It's a slippery slope. So that's why I wanted to go over again. A lot of people are talking about it. We're that close to football. We will be talking more about the North Dakota State matchup in days to come. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Again, be sure to smash the like button. We just surpassed 10,000 subs, which is an incredible feat. I think we're sitting on 10,000 on the dot. So thank you to all those who did subscribe. We'll see you boys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.